We've got the first returning champ. We've got a lot of information for you. We've got a P movie. We got a lot of stuff. You're at the place, Pensado's Place.
P movie?
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. So we got that Depends endorsement then.
We do.
Welcome. I tell you what, guys, we're going to have a great show today.
Yours?
Huh?
Are you wearing your Depends?
Constantly.
Oh,
I got the designer ones.
Let's not show them. Let's not show them.
Okay.
We'll save that for an ITL.
But, you know, 2Xs are hard to come by for me. But
I'm going to avoid that.
Michael just left.
Exactly.
Guys, it's been an incredible week. I say that every week, but it is. I'm so lucky. So much has happened, right, Herm?
To say the least, of which a few things are. We're coming to you live from the Art Institute of California, Los Angeles. And that's going to segue to a lot of information we're going to share with you shortly. Let's get our homework out of the way because there has been a lot that's gone on this week. Mm-hmm. You know where to contact us, Facebook and Twitter, our own YouTube channel, obviously anything, YouTube/Pensado's Place. So let's make sure you do that. We always want to say hello to our Vintage King family. Yay, Vintage King. Yay. They're our buddies. We love them. In the chat room, yes.
We need some audience participation. You guys are real quiet. They need to be.
Well, that's because
they're trained.
They're working. That's why.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Jeff Leibovich is in the chat room. Jeff, what's happening? We love Jeff. His page will show up there. So our Vintage King friends are here. Make sure you go to their website and stay involved with them. Lots of good stuff coming from them. We're going to shoot some exclusive content. I'm going to tell you a little bit about their new facility. Also, our buddies at Avid.
Absolutely.
Tony and Lee and
Anthony
and Claudia. Anyways, coming up very soon in a couple of weeks, we're going to show you a lot of contesting and your ability to get some prizes and get involved in some very interesting stuff from them. They're creating some good things. We've been preparing, as you know, you can see this transition. We'll talk to you about that in a couple of weeks and sort of explain what's going on. We're very excited. We've got a couple of new partners that we're going to start doing some cool things with. It's going to be an advantage to you. One of them is a great company called Indaba.
Yes, great company.
They're a great company, great guys. We're going to do some stuff with them and include you in mixed contests. We've already running one contest that Dave's going to pick tracks from. There's going to be all kinds of interesting prizes, including your opportunity to submit mixes and to get on the show potentially and win other stuff. When in doubt, go to pensadosplace.tv for all that information. We'll keep spooning that out, but you're going to enjoy that. There's another company soon that we call Pensado Partners called Gobbler, which does some great pro audio stuff for storage and transferring and files and backup. Dave uses them. So stay tuned. I know there's a lot of stuff. We're going to segment it all out, get it to you over time. Make sure you go to pensadosplace.tv for information, and we'll post all that stuff.
I do have something that's kind of bothering me. I entered the Indaba Mix contest and did not win.
Ooh, so
that
maybe you shouldn't be judging.
I know.
At that stage of the game.
Drew forgot to put my name on it. Well, I didn't recognize it, and it was horrible.
I know. Well, the fun part is that our audience is getting ready to be able to get involved. They're a great company, a great mixed community.
If I got a second for this.
You do.
You
and
guys,
that's 1 second. Let's go back.
You guys, golly. You guys, we take our responsibilities for the gift that you gave us seriously, and then the show will always be free if the show will always be free if we can help it. And so along the way, there's people that ask to help us, and we choose these people not because they've got money, but because we think they can help you. So when we have a sponsor like Vintage King, Avid, and Daba, Gobbler, we got a couple in the works. We choose them because we like them. We use them. They're not just sponsors. We're not selling Alpo here. We're trying to bring you things that can make your career better, make your work better, and everything else. So it's not a random thing when we choose these guys. We have serious relationships with them, and we like them. And so it's not just a commercial. It's a way to help us bring you better information, better stuff, more timely stuff. and Herb has got some serious ideas for the future that I think are going to really take your mixes to another level.
Quickly, we had a really interesting, we had to give a shout out to Chris Baseford, an engineer that you should know more about. And
Oh yeah, we went to Tommy Lee's studio, the drummer from Motley Crue. Just had a great night. It was
Great night.
I was reticent to go, and it was like church. Once you went, you're happy you did, you know. Along with Chris, we met his assistant, Smiley.
Sean.
We met Tommy. Tommy's a great guy.
Yeah, the cool thing about Tommy Lee, first of all, the house was incredible. If you're not going to be an engineer, be a rock star.
Okay, well, I'm out of here.
Okay, cool. The other part was he had just a beautiful studio. We had a great time, and he was about as non-rock star guy. He was the most regular, cool guy, which made him actually a bigger rock star. So shout outs to Tommy Lee. Here's the other cool part. We're going to shoot some stuff at the studio. Dave's going to be there. Will's hooking that up. We're going to show you some cool things from there. So we're going to get you into that family as well, too.
You know, a lot of you guys don't know about our producer, Will Thompson, but Will is a great engineer. And he used to work with Tommy Lee, so that's how a lot of that came about.
Tell our audience about, you had a conversation with Steve Duda, who was a great guest of ours.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate you bringing that up. I was talking with Steve Duda because there's a lot of things changing in this world right now, and one of the things that's changing is, obviously, a lot of you guys are mixing your stuff at home in the box. And some of you guys are actually getting pretty good at mastering your stuff. And just like the delineation between a producer producing a track and when is it starting to be mixed, the delineation and the morphing into the mastering process is now somewhat blurred. So I called Steve to ask him who he uses to master his EDM stuff. And he said, well, Dave, I just do it myself. And so I just want to we're going to talk to Steve and expand this a little bit in the future, this concept. But, you know, there's certain genres that I'm sorry, I'm just such a retard.
You did it very well, though.
I can't do it twice in a row. There's certain types of music that really should be mastered, but in some of the EDM stuff, some of the hip hop stuff, if you really got skills on Steve's level, you tend to mix into what your mastering chain is. So Steve said that he just masters his own stuff, and I thought, man, I'm going to share that with the audience because some of you guys are a little uncomfortable doing that. I know I am. I like the safety that I get from mastering. And then when you work with guys like Kutch and Brad and Big Bass, I mean, you get a great safety net from those guys. So anyway, I just want to share that with our guys that here's a guy at the top of the heap, and he's mastering his own stuff, not because he wants every credit on the record, but because it's part of the creative process now for him. I guess that's the best way to say it.
Speaking of, which is great, and Steve was a great guest, and we want to have him back. Speaking of mastering, and before we get to our movie, it's just so crazy, one of the things that Indaba does is they have a really cool mastering service. You can license songs, you can do things, you can actually, so you can go there. The other thing too is, Vintage King, which we're going to show you later, they're opening up a new facility very soon in LA, and
Spectacular.
I would say if Apple has a genius bar, Vintage King has a genius facility.
Yeah.
They have mastering labs in it. You can actually try out equipment. You can A/B things. I mean, it's all retroed out. It is a place where music lovers and mixers and engineers can go get hands-on.
And that's not an exaggeration.
Good for those guys, and we're going to do some stuff from there. So now let's talk about our movie and our man Leo.
Leo, man.
Let's do that briefly and get into
Rio
the
de
film.
Janeiro's got everything. They
Boy.
got FIFA soccer. They got
Leo Saramago.
They got Olympics coming too, don't they? They got something else coming, and then they got Leo Saramago. Leo is a sweetheart. You guys, sometimes you guys just, I don't know. When I get tired or bitchy, which is pretty much all the time, I think about guys like Leo and the guys that just give us so much love. Leo started this movie and.
So let's give him context.
Yeah.
Leo, about a year ago, started working on a film, was sending me Facebook information, so on and so forth. Anyways, at his own time and expense, over the course of 8 or 9 months, as a true Pensado student and a guy who's been in touch with us forever, just wanted to do something for us. So he sent it to Dave and I and Will. We were all blown away. We said, let's show it. So he calls it the P movie. Let's have some fun before we have a great guest. And Will, why don't we roll that?
Yeah.
You're at the place. Pensado's place.
The whole show and the whole focus of the show is just to make Herb stutter. I like when you I just can't I like from
Wow.
what I'm gonna catch you in something one day.
Nah, it's not working. No.
But how did you? Do what do you?
So, he's not the DJ, he's our CJ, and he loves to make a point.
What's that over there?
Ooh.
Is that looking big today?
Make a point, Drew, make a point.
I used to be an athlete.
Drew's in the house. And on camera. There you go. Drew Adams.
You're gonna make me point.
Ooh, there's Drew. There's Drew with the point.
There's your points.
What up, y'all? If you like Herb's jokes better than mine, 555-1212.
One of the comments that we just saw was somebody was so excited they thought they just did number one.
My dealer just ran out of the good stuff.
Oh, got it. So you got the medicinal stuff.
Are you drooling?
Now to the meat of it.
It's like asking a chef what's his favorite vegetable.
We're gonna tease you,
Food's food.
Please.
It's a modified hairdo
And you've done it
just to
perfectly.
add to the. Okay, good.
We have two examples of rock and roll hair here. Completely out of control.
I am wearing a shirt from the Herb Trowick Special Polo Collection.
Your favorite shampoo to get that all-day bounce?
But you're a spinoff. You're going to be a spinoff. Herb's Place.
Thank you for the crazy response.
I'm paid to say that, but
Holler.
no, I lost my train of thought like I ever had one.
Nothing new there.
Stuff like that.
Crunchy guitar like that.
We're gonna give away. You know the drill.
Stuff like that.
Crunchy guitar like that. Wow.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
But that's classic, Dave.
I think I pissed myself.
No. Go radical, man. Go punk. Go Sid Vicious.
But I went to the Barbara Walters School of Interviewing. Ba 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 ba.
I didn't notice a difference.
I got to tell you guys, if I say man again, just bitch slap me, Herb. But
Our eminent producer, Will.
let's have a big round of applause for Will. This is, I mean, it's A, so we know A is 440. Divide that by 2, that's 220. Divide by 2, 210. We all have medical reasons.
He was so Al Pacino.
That's so embarrassing. I mean, a big round of applause for Leo.
Absolutely. Leo
That took a
Saramago.
lot of work. And by the way, the number, in case you like Herb's jokes better than mine, has been changed. It's now 555-1212. Bite me.
Okay. Well, that was comedic genius.
Yeah. I don't
Anyways, that film will be it'll be posted to our website. So if you want to go back and watch that from it, please do.
I know.
Good job, Leo.
I'm afraid to introduce Michael because I'm sure he's left by now.
Well, we now have to elevate the show. So
Okay, guys. You guys are all familiar with Michael Brauer. Michael's a close friend and someone that I get tremendous amounts of inspiration from. So this show is as much for me as it is for you today. Hello, Michael. You with us?
Hello, Dave.
Man, I've been Brauerized. But good news is my doctor has a cure for that.
It's good to see you, Dave.
Michael, man, what's up? Last time we spoke, you were working with Coldplay and those kind of groups, John Mayer. Now you're tearing up and own the modern rock charts. What's up, my friend?
You know, it's always time to change every 4 or 5 years. I mean, who could be any luckier than I have, having mixed, at least 3 Coldplay records. And it's a great sound. It's something I developed for many years, trying to get better and better at it, and hopefully changing as they were changing. But, man, I love these Brooklyn bands. Man, I love New York bands in March. And guys like George Lewis from Twin Shadow and Grizzly Bear. I mean, this is what I wanted to go after. So the only way I could do that is by really starting to work on sounds that would attract them.
Man, I tell you, my hat's off to you, because like every 3 or 4 or 5 years, you just have this overwhelming need to change. That's pretty scary. I mean, it's like, how do you morph from where you are? Well, let's go back to the beginning. You started out doing like Aretha Franklin and Hall & Oates and stuff like that. Then you said, time for a change. So then you started doing some rock stuff, and then Coldplay, Dylan, all these things. Time for a change. And man, that's hard. I've been trying to do that lately, and I'm a little bit successful, but not on your level. I mean, when you punt you're not punting everything, right? I mean, you're still Brauerizing, right?
No, I'm not punting everything. I'm just taking the go-to comfort level out of the picture. And when I do that, it forces me to rethink, and I get uncomfortable, I get nervous, I get scared. But at the end of the day, I'm not performing on stage. So I can try an idea and then chicken out for a minute and then get back to it and try it again. But the cool thing is when you put that not as a challenge, but as a fun new escape, the coolest things can happen. And that's what excites me more than the fear that this whole thing is going to fail. Because what's happened at that point is I've achieved pretty much what I think I can offer for that style of music. And it's time to, I started hearing other bands. I go, wow, I wish I could mix with them. They'd never call me. And then I think, oh, well, how would they call me? Well, then I should start maybe preparing. And so it takes me about a year to figure out, first of all, where I want to go. And then about a year to start developing ideas that they would notice, and getting my manager to, help me go towards that. It's always teamwork with Eric and I. Mm-hmm. I'll sit down and I'll say, okay, Eric, this is where I want to start going within 2 years. Well, usually it's a year because I've already been thinking about it for a year. Mm-hmm. And then, then it starts to happen. And then I start really imagining. I mean, I imagine I'm going to be doing that band. It's a lot of it is visual.
On the Sonic Scoop interview, man, once again, just a great interview. You said that you just can't use ideas from 3 years ago. So I'm insinuating that a lot of this change is a function of just boredom. I mean, sometimes I get bored with the same plug-in, with the same everything, and musically speaking, of course. So this is rooted in boredom a little bit, isn't it, Michael? No, it's not.
It's not really as much boredom as the times are moving all the time, and I'm just a record mixer. I'm not the producer making the changes. So I'm, a product of what's going out there, and if I'm trying to lead, I need to be coming up with the ideas hopefully first, as opposed to be following other people's ideas. So it's that drives me.
I got you. One of the things that your recent stuff seems to really do better than anybody is the transition from the verses to the choruses. Like, there's been times when I've noticed your mix has exploded into the chorus, and now you're doing something. The last few things I've heard seem to give me that lift I want from the chorus, but it's a little less obvious and a little more subtle. How like describe for the guys that are somewhat neophytes a little bit of the technique and tools that you use to take a verse and make it intimate, make it do what a verse should do, but then the money and the payoffs in the chorus. How are you doing that now, Michael? If you can share that with us.
Well, first thing you need is a proper arrangement. You can't have everything linear. You can't have everything that's going to be in the chorus already going on in the verse. So you need a good arrangement that feels somewhat empty. And if it isn't empty, you try to keep it somewhat open. But for the most part, I'm getting records that are already arranged well. So now the question is, how do I really make it even more obvious when, let's say, there's only a couple of new elements that are introduced? And I found that this kind of goes back to the days when I was first trying to work out how I could get a bigger impact, even if the arrangement wasn't there for me. And I found that I'm a mixer, therefore, how about doing it from a sonic approach? So I thought, well, verse, let's say the verse is intimate, so I would have a fairly dry vocal, lead vocal, and my stereo would be pretty tight. And I wouldn't be introducing as much bottom end or top end. It's not like I'm EQing it out, but look, I bring my bass up on two channels, always mold it. And one is kind of like the neck, and the other one is like the root, the bottom end.
Right.
So if I bring bottom end down a bit, I've got less bottom. And with the vocals, same thing. I have a vocal always up on two channels, one for the verse, one for the chorus, generally, unless it really sounds great on both. And so I'll have that nice intimate vocal sound for the verse. I'll have the panning in a bit on my desk. And generally, I know the chorus, maybe new guitars, new instruments are going to be coming in. I'm going to have those way out. So as the chorus comes in, I introduce bottom end, top end, and width. So there's your picture. You've got this, that opens up into this. And so from a sonic standpoint, you're physically feeling the change. You're feeling a lift because it's coming from all around you. Width, top, bottom. And depth, because at that point, I'm probably going to start introducing things that are going deep. So you're getting this just big picture that's going 3D, you know?
I got you.
So that's in a nutshell what, how it's done. As from a technique standpoint, well, you just apply the concept and your technique will work.
Man, I'm fascinated by that because it's using our tools to manipulate energy as much as it is using our tools to manipulate the sonics. You know what I'm saying? It's like that takes a different kind of gift, you know?
Well, it's an emotional change.
Exactly,
You're
yeah.
feeling, it's almost like you're going, you're breathing in and it's like it opens up. So all of these are emotional things. I mean, when you do it, if you don't have a physical reaction or an emotional reaction to what you've done, then you haven't done it properly.
That could be the benchmark for the entire process, not just making the chorus bigger. But Michael, we said we were going to talk about focus, but I forgot just exactly what the hell it was I was supposed to ask you. Well, do you remember?
Can't say anything more than one word, focus.
I need to focus on this.
I do this seminar. This will be the third one I'm doing this summer in south of France. It's a place called La Fabrique. And
oh, hey, Michael, hold up. Mix with the Masters is mixwiththemasters.com. Real cool thing. And then,
yeah.
And then,
Masters, it means old guys. Well, actually, Manny and who else? Tom Elmhurst are going to be doing it, so I can't really say old guys anymore. But anyway, every summer, I tried to come up with some new ideas about stuff that is obvious to me, but not obvious to others. And one of the things that I realized, I don't know what the situation was, but I thought, when I focus on something, I don't hear or notice anything. Oh, I know what happened. I was focusing on something, and my wife came in to say hi in the studio. She was downtown with our kids, and she comes into the room, which should be in my peripheral because it's just right there. The door is right over there. Mm-hmm. She comes in, and then she leans over and says something, and I basically had a heart attack. I mean, I was like, what the hell? I was like, how did you get in here? You know, and later I thought about it. I thought, wow, if I'm that focused and I don't notice anything around me, I'm so deep into what I'm hearing, what I'm thinking, that I don't notice anything around me. And I wonder how easy and obvious that is for other people. And so I think one of the things I want to do this summer is try to do a little focus workshop, which is when you start listening to a rough mix and you're trying to find what's good about it, or you now are starting to put the tracks up, what are you thinking about? How easy are you being distracted by other things that are going on? Mm-hmm. Are you trying to multitask? Are you trying to text, like driving or something? Or are you able, how long are you able to focus on the particular idea that you're trying to develop? And I think that if I ask that question to Manny or Tony or Chris, any of my friends, they're going to say, well, I just sit there and I just do it, and then just nothing bothers me because I know exactly what I'm doing. But it's because we really put on blinders and we're focusing. And I think that's something that I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do that little workshop. I mean, maybe I'll have somebody listening to something and I'll be like running around and distract them or something, or pull my pants down. I don't know.
Nude models would be a good distraction.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
Or maybe something.
You said something, I can't remember where, it might have been the Sonic Scoop thing, but you were talking about how drums can actually date the song, kind of like cell phones and videos. You see a cell phone the size of a shoebox, you're in the 80s video. That sentence just captured my imagination because in certain types of music, like the hip hop world, drum sounds change about every week, whereas in the rock world, they tend to stay a little more the same. And when you're trying to go from, say, a Coldplay to Grizzly Bear, obviously the drum sounds are going to be different. How do you make the determination just how modern to take them, just how traditional to take them? I know that's an impossible question to answer, but I know a lot of guys in the audience are like me and are wondering about that.
Well, depending on which record I was doing with Coldplay, they became more and more of a stadium approach. So the snare was getting, bigger and more, with more energy and more space around it. I think with other records, there's not even a comparison between those two bands because they come from such different places. But with Grizzly Bear, it really changed from song to song. I mean, it's an amazing album, man. It was so much fun to mix.
When are we going to get to hear that?
Well, I got mastered. We're just doing some tweaks on it, so I assume probably within 2 months of that.
Oh, great.
2 months from now, I would assume. I don't know. I haven't really asked anybody, but today things get turned around pretty quickly. Sometimes even, singles are released, like in Europe, they release the single first and then the album later. I don't know what the process is going to be here, but
But did you take your cue for the drum sounds? Obviously, you got to take it from the rough mix that you're given, and rough mixes are a whole nother discussion. But then, what's the creative process at that point with the drum sounds? Because sometimes I'm conflicted. Like I hear a drum sound in the rough, and I really like it, so I want to just use that and make it better. And then everything in my body is trying to make it sound more modern. Am I fighting the wrong battle?
I don't think so. I think you're just going with your instinct. And when the band comes in, they'll tell you whether you're in the right direction or not.
Absolutely.
I don't sweat it too much.
And they should tell me. So how do you stay modern without chasing trends?
Say that again?
How do you stay modern without chasing trends and fads? That's an impossible. I'm asking you a lot of impossible questions today.
Well, I'm really trying to do things that make me feel good and don't sound like it's too obvious.
That's a good way to put it. Try not to be
It's
too
a hard
obvious.
question to answer, but I don't want it to be always the most obvious sound. What I do want to do is make sure that it's unique to the band and not the sound that is good for this month. So, I'm not going to push a, non-Lin stadium sound or something on a band that can't stand that. And plus, I'm going to go crazy if I hear that 2 years from now and go, oh my God, that just so distracts me from listening to the song. So I want something that just feels really good and punchy. And if dry and nasty is the way to go, fine. But I don't want to put too much focus of the song on noticing the snare. I want the snare to be in there. And obviously, if it's a backbeat, it needs to be feeling like a backbeat. But I don't want the focus to be about, wow, check out the reverb on the snare, because then you're missing the whole point of the song.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't put all that much attention into it. I just want to make sure it's feeling good and it feels somewhat timeless.
Would you say that determining timelessness is more a function of the effects you choose rather than the EQ and the compression that you choose?
I think it's everything.
It is everything?
I think it's everything. And let's not
That's what I
forget,
meant.
it's what you're being given too. It's like what the band wants, and then if you're mixing a record that's retro, it's a retro modern. So what is retro? Well, the grooves might be retro, but the loops and the kick and the snare, they want to be modern.
Mm-hmm.
But to reflect the retro aspect of the record, that's when you're constantly just, riding that fence of where that snare kick should go. And,
Mm-hmm.
you just
I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's it.
Without naming names, you mentioned a situation where you really had been working hard on making changes to your sound and and what you were doing, particularly on the drum tracks, and you worked really hard, thinking that because you'd done a first album, you're probably going to do the second album, and you had this sound, and ended up having to put it on another band. That must. How'd you feel about that? Did you feel great, or did you feel like? I mean, obviously the project you ended up putting on was spectacular.
How did I feel about Coldplay not calling me to mix Rush Ahead?
Yeah, and put it on Athlete.
I'm human.
Huh?
I mean, it hurt. Why wouldn't it hurt? Anything that you love to do, you want to do more of, but that wasn't to be. But I'd already been developing an idea and a sound, so I thought, well, I'm not going to drop that part of it. And I was lucky. Another band came along called Athlete, and I was able to use the very things I've been developing for them. And then, funny enough, the next record I got, and X and Y, and by that time,
that was a great record.
I'd still been working on that sound, so it all worked out good.
Hey, Michael, like budgets are so small these days. Like, I remember you talking about some bands. I can't remember the exact name, but a lot of some of the projects you're currently working on, you got like 4 days, 5 days to mix the entire record, but yet you're you're happy with the end result. Greg Wells said, the longer you work on a piece of music, the less chance you have of listening to the way someone else will hear it for the first time. Do you think mixing 2 songs a day is that improving the process, making it worse? Because I can mix a song for 5-6 years, but yet when I hear stuff like that, I realize I'm doing it wrong. Help me, Michael.
I mixed Flying Colors in 5 days. That is some intense music with a lot of scene changes.
That's quick.
You know, I had the greatest time, and I stand behind those mixes. I don't turn something in and go, okay, we're out of time, this is as good as it's going to get. That's just not going to happen on my watch. I just get into it, and I just start memorizing everything and absorbing everything as fast as I can. And that's the energy that you're getting from the mix. So in essence, it's even more exciting than if you were to carefully try and put everything in its right place for 2 days. First of all, I never mix for 2 days. I really would go insane if I had to spend that much time. I mean, I did once on Dream Theater because it was like 24 minutes long. That's an exception. But for the most part, the energy that you're getting from those mixes is one where you're just having a great time. And again, it's focus. I'm sitting there and not thinking about things that can go wrong. I'm thinking about all the great things that are going to go right and how I'm going to make these changes and what's missing in this. There's something missing. And I start searching. I find that one track that helps transition into the chorus, or what is the cool thing in the bridge. I'm constantly searching. I bring it up. I like it, and the decision is made. I don't spend too much time questioning anything I'm doing. I go, feels good, it stays. Feels good, bad, goes down. That's it. And I'm constantly making those decisions quickly. And once it feels good, the automation comes on. I start riding I have a lot of movement in my mixes, and that's what I'm doing. I'm doing a lot of riding of the instruments to crescendo sections. And then before I know it, it's done, and I tell the band to come in, and they have to be around. I know my schedule has to be maybe, if I'm going to do 12 songs, it's 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, right? 2 on Monday, 3 on Tuesday. And I tell them, I go, look, you have this much time, you have X amount of time to make comments, and then we got to print, and then I got to go do the next one.
Is there any part of that necessary speed that you think's an advantage, or is it all a disadvantage? It seems like you're saying it's an advantage.
It's all an advantage because it's exciting. It's fun, and everybody's on board.
Hold on, let me put some earmuffs on Herb's ears. I don't want Herb to hear this right now.
I'm over here weeping.
No, I mean, there were no recalls on Flying Colors.
Holy cow. That's incredible.
So, actually, I think there was a request for a little bit more of something going in a bridge, and Ryan just added that to the stereo mix. But we flew through it, and you know what? I'm proud of it. It was.
Well, if you let it go out the room, it was good. It was great.
That's it. I'm not, it's not like, hey, this is what you can get in 5 days. This is like, this feels great. Okay, next, let's go.
Hey, Michael, before we go to batter's box,
I'm tired.
Before we go to batter's box, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you one compressor question. Can you describe to the new guys that are watching the show that haven't been engineering that long, can you just describe what you're listening for when you put a compressor on the stereo bus, and should you start with the compressor on or bring it on later? A lot of guys that are just starting out, not the guys earning a living, but the guys just starting out, they just do it and they don't know why. Can you kind of give them a hint as to how you've tuned your ear and what to listen for when you put that compressor on the stereo bus?
Well, if you're just starting off and you're already putting a compressor over the stereo bus and you don't know the sound of that, I think that's unwise.
Yeah, I agree.
I think you really need to start learning what it's like to build a mix. Again, I'm talking to probably 80% of the people out there don't have a console. It's all in the box, but I suppose those who have a decontrol or anything with faders, then yeah, I mean, this applies to them. The thing with compression is quite often, I mean, if you ask Bruce Swedien this question, he'll say, well, you don't use compressors, you use your hands and you ride it, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of anti-compressor. I'm not anti anything. I am pro, this feels good, this works for me, this doesn't work for me, it's out of here. So the way I see it is compression, if you done properly, obviously helps the sound. And if it's done improperly, really, really badly, that might even be cooler. I don't know. It depends. But what I'm trying to do is hear that instrument, more of that instrument within the song. Because if I'm losing too many of the notes and EQ doesn't do it and riding the level only brings the louder ones up, then compression helps even the things out. The things that are a bit too quiet get a little louder, things that are too loud get a little quieter, as opposed to a limiter that just says, I don't care what you give me, I'm not affecting it unless you hit the wall. And at that time, at that point, I'm just not letting anything get any louder. So it's like a cream pie, and you just go, in essence. While a compressor, just softens the top and makes the bottom of the pan a little bit bigger.
So once again, it all boils down to what sounds good in your taste. People pay for our taste.
Let's put
Anything else?
let's
Be
put
honest.
Babe Ruth at the plate. What do you think?
I'm ready.
This is time for batter's box.
It is.
How's your
Michael,
arm? Is your arm warmed up?
I got a pro in the batter's box.
Throw them right away at
I'm
him.
nervous, sir. Can you help me?
Throw heat.
Do we have like relief batter's box pictures?
I got your back.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Michael, I want to try something a little different. Let's try frequencies in your go-to solution for those frequencies. This is an impossible one, but and keeping in the tradition of this entire interview with impossible questions. Are you ready for this?
No.
Okay. Sub. What do you think of when I say sub?
Well, living in New York City, car coming by. Sub makes me feel really warm all over. It's just it's an inviting sound, nice low sub.
What piece of gear would you think of to enhance it or remove it?
The VOG is really cool from Little Labs.
Okay.
Looking at it right over there.
Okay. What about in a bass 200 cycles and thereabouts?
200. Well, if you're attenuating 200, it tends to tighten up. Greg Calby taught me that one. Where sometimes if a mix sounded a bit loose in the bass, he would notch out like 220.
What
real
piece of
tight.
gear? What piece of gear would you use for that? Or plug in?
I'm on an SSL, so
Okay.
SSL.
And then 10K high end, like on a vocal.
Air. Well, the air would be more like 12 or 14, but 10K gives you the crispiness, and then of course you immediately got to be careful with the top end of Essing, but it depends on the vocal. If it's really bright, you're taking it out.
And what,
If you
what,
want a
what piece of
warmer
gear?
feel,
What piece of
taking it
gear?
out.
What piece of gear? I'm looking for pieces of gear, Michael.
Oh shit.
Okay, I'm gonna make it easy for you. I'm gonna go. This one is a trick question, Michael. Taking out 2K.
Well, I know this guy, Dave Pensado, who actually taught me that little trick on side chaining, and he's got this little trick for 2K and 4K. And when a vocal gets a bit too harsh, I just pop that baby across. That's the first plugin I'm actually mentioning now.
Okay.
And a plugin. And as it gets harsher, that 4K just very subtly dips out. It's awesome. And so the voice stays strong. On the other hand, 4K in guitars means good rock.
Okay, so we're talking about the Waves C1 SC. What's your favorite go-to de-esser, Michael?
Well, it's the one that Ryan, my assistant, goes to. It would be the Oxford I love it. We use that every day. It's always on. It's a default. And then if, we need it, it just, he starts working it.
Well, there's a scoop.
Awesome. And his approach is interesting too, because he doesn't do it in the traditional way that they want it. I discovered this when I did a interview with actually the Oxford boys, and I mean, what's the company? Sonex.
Yeah, Sonnox. I can't say that word.
Apologize, but anyway, we all know what it is.
And then one last one, Michael. What's your go-to piece of gear for clarity?
Well, it's not a go-to piece of gear. I just take out some 300. That's clarity. Although the clariphonic, that's not really cleaning up. It's adding.
That's one of my favorite pieces of gear. That's such an obscure piece of gear. It's even brown. I like that too.
I don't think it's that obscure anymore. I mean, that's like, I think people are starting to look at that as a tool. I'm not going to compare it to the distressor, but you remember when the distressors are coming out, everybody was saying, man, that is so different.
Yeah.
I think that's the way that.
What he does with the distressors, I mean, with the Fatso is pretty cool. Was it the distressor or the Fatso he does? Fatso, I think, is the one he modifies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Greg,
Yeah,
what a guy. Okay,
cool.
Okay, Michael, this is the moment of judgment. How do you do, Herm?
Hall of Fame. I mean, how?
Michael's a Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I mean, if you got it, you got it.
You got it.
It just
That's the way to put it.
no question about it. Let's see if we can go to our friend Drew Adams, who's manning the corner office. Get some questions from there. Drew, how are you?
I'm doing well.
You got some good stuff from Michael and Dave?
I got a lot.
All right, throw them out.
Real quick from Brett Donaldson. Hi, Michael. Love your use of effects on the Coldplay album. Are there any reverb or delay plugins you have come across that live up to your toys?
Good question. Let me get my pen out.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm thinking.
Oh, sorry.
Of course, I don't have time for that when I'm being interviewed.
You're Michael Brauer. You got all the time you need.
Well, I would say, Echo Boy comes out with a lot of cool stuff that I use. But generally, I'm using my Bensons, my Echo Rex, my Swiss Echoes, my Miazis. Those are all the sounds. I mean, especially in the Coldplay land when I was involved with them. Yeah. The Benson had a lot to do with those guitar sounds and the spaciousness.
Hey, Brett, go to Sonic Scoop. There's some great pictures of Michael's gear on Sonic Scoop. And then the first time Michael was on the show, he talked a little bit about some of those. What you got next, Drew?
Cool. Got one from Michael Van Olden for Michael and Dave. Guys, is a signature sound important in professional mixing? If so, then how often should one reinvent that sound? Once a year, every album, different sound per band? What are your thoughts about having a consistent signature sound?
Michael, can I take that first?
Yep.
Well, Michael, the questioner, we just discussed that. Michael just discussed that, but there's two schools of thought. There's the mixers that you hire for their sound, and then there's the mixers you hire for your sound, and then when you get really lucky, you hire Michael Brauer for both. What would you say, Michael?
I think it's important the signature sound should be what makes the band unique. And make a unique template. And that's why I love working with, the freshman record, the first album, because you can help develop that template. And you don't throw at them, what you just did on the last 5 records so that they sound like somebody else. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't want to do that. So the signature sound maybe is maybe how you approach the vocals. I mean, generally, I'm going to have a certain approach to how vocals come across, not how they always sound, but just how they push the record. So there's a certain signature sound, but I think it's somewhat transparent.
Cool. People should study, by the way, Michael Brauer's vocals, because not just for EQ, but the way he lays them in the mix, the way everything coordinates together around the vocal, it's like spaghetti and meatballs. They're just like the perfect ratio of everything all the time. I don't know how he does it.
True.
Cool. Got one from Max Kessler. Hello, Michael. I'd like to know how you approach mixes with such high track counts, such as Dream Theater's Octavarium. Do you start with individual tracks, such as snare and kick, or do things in a group fashion, i.e., drums, bass, guitar, etc.?
Great question, Max.
Okay, on high tracks, I don't want any more than, I think, 50 tracks coming back on my desk. So anything that can be grouped or stemmed, and quite often, these bands have been living with a particular stem. It could be backing vocals that are 40 tracks. They're down to 2, and it's just one block. If there's going to be a counter melody or something, I'm going to always spread that out, open it up on 2 other channels. But quite often, they've been living with certain synths, chordal stems or guitar stems, and some of those I just bring up because it works perfectly. I don't need to reinvent that blend. That blend works fine. So in cases like that, I'm working with a lot of stems, but when it comes where I don't use the stems, and again, there's going to be exceptions, are opening up the drums, open up the bass, I open up the vocals, the lead vocals. I don't want to work off of a stem, although there's exceptions where the stem sounds so cool that I'm going to use that and maybe sneak some of my dry vocal in it, But most of the time, and I always tell this to bands, if you guys have been living with stems, print it. I'll start with that. Just have the playlist available if I want to open it up.
Cool.
One more question, Drew.
Yeah, from this is an interesting one. From Sean McCauley. Michael, how does your cultural environment, town, city, living in New York City, affect the way your creativity is expressed? Dave, you may touch on that too.
Well,
That's the best question of the day.
I mean, that is a great question because it's everything for me. I've traveled all over the world, and for work. And the minute I leave New York City, that battery just starts to decharge. And I think I mentioned this in that interview. It's like from the time I get up and I walk outside and I'm heading towards a subway and I'm trying to just walk down the platform just to wait for it. There's so much going on. You're passing so many people. There's such an energy, good or bad. It's wild. And so by the time I get into the studio, it's so different than anywhere else in the world for me. But then I grew up here for the most part. So, I was born here. I grew up in France, but, I really spent most of my life in New York City. And I love it. And when I sit down and I'm mixing a band and I've just experienced another day in New York City, there's a definite energy that you're going to hear in those mixes because of that.
Michael, what's the Twin Shadow song? What's his song that you have out now?
Let me see.
There's one that's out, I think.
Yeah, let me just see.
While you're doing that, I just want to say, I'd like for people to go scare that down on iTunes and get it, because I think that's a good reflection of what Michael's saying about the importance of his environment and the energy he gets from his surroundings, making it into a song.
Oh, here it is. It's called
That
5
sounds
Seconds.
like the subway.
It is. It's 5 Seconds to Your Heart. It's such a cool song.
Hey, Michael.
Just non-end driving.
Michael, I love you. You're the best. Man, I've got the energy. I was tired today. I got the energy to go work and mix 100 songs after talking with you. Your personality is infectious, and your talent level is something to be admired and studied, man. I can't thank you enough for helping us out today.
Thanks, Mike. Came through in a pinch.
Thanks a lot for calling me, because I love being on here.
And when are you going to mix with the Masters? Is that this summer? You said?
Yeah, that's in the middle of August.
Oh, in August.
I'm going to do 1 week with my best friend David Kahn, and
Oh,
then
I love David Kahn.
I'll do a solo week. I think first week of September.
David
And
Kahn.
it's really fun.
David Kahn once told me when I was mixing, he said all his hits he whistles on them. That'd be an interesting question to ask him if that's true.
Anyways, the clock ticks. Michael, thanks so much for coming back. Our first return champion.
Is Michael still with us?
No.
Yep.
Yes,
Oh,
he is.
there he is.
There he is. He can hear us.
Okay, Michael, man, we can't see you, but we can hear you, man. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Say goodnight, Dave.
Man, I hate to. That was just so much fun for me. So much to learn, so much to go back and review on that interview with Michael, guys. And we've got a lot in store for you. Stay tuned, stay close to the TV set, and we'll see you next week.